This episode is brought to you by HASA. Liquid is clearly better. Liquid chlorine is the highest purity, works immediately, has no added cyanuric acid or calcium, and it will leave your pool safe, clean, and clear. And by the Bottom Feeder professional grade battery powered vacuum system. It sucks to clean pools, so cleaning pools sucks less. Get $100 off with code DVB100.
This episode is brought to you by Skimmer, the #1 pool service software in North America. With Skimmer, you can streamline your schedule, grow your revenue, and keep your customers coming back with 5-star service. Whether you're a one-person operation or an established team, Skimmer is your partner in success. Visit getskimmer.com/poolguy to try Skimmer for free for 30 days.
The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show.
Hi, welcome to the Pool Guy Podcast Show. In this episode, I'm going to focus on variable speed pump, runtime scheduling, some tips when you're setting up a VS pump for a customer, and some example runtimes that you can kind of use as a baseline when you're setting a VS pool pump up at your service account. Are you a pool service pro looking to take your business to the next level? Join the Pool Guy coaching program. Get expert advice, business tips, exclusive content, and get direct support. For me, I'm a 35-year veteran in the industry. Whether you're starting out or scaling up, I've got the tools to help you succeed. Learn more at swimmingpoollearning.com. To really get the energy-saving benefits out of your VS pool pump, you really need to run it at lower speeds. A lot of times, you'll see these charts. I think Pentair has one of these where it says you'll save 80 or 90%. I can't remember what they put in their thing, and I'm not going to look it up right now, but it's like 80 or 90% energy savings with the VS pump. But that's like running it 24 hours a day at like 1800 RPMs, which is not going to do much for the pool. Now, I've been around long enough that there were no variable speed pumps when I started. In fact, when they started coming out in the mid 2000s, like 2005, 2006, somewhere around there, when they started becoming more prevalent in my area, service area, the thinking was that you could run these things at 1600 RPMs, and you could run it pretty much all day at that speed. Well, that didn't last very long in the industry because basically nothing really moved on the surface, and the pools looked terrible, and customers complained about how the pool looked. And so just note that the lower the RPM or lower the speed you set it for, the less movement of water you're going to have in the pool. What this basically means is that if you have a pool that gets a lot of leaf debris or a lot of dust or a lot of small particles, if you're running it at a low speed all the time, the surface is not going to be skimmed properly because there's not a lot of water movement in bringing that water to the skimmer. And so keep that in mind as well if you have a suction side cleaner attached to your pool and you're running at a low RPM. Most suction side cleaners won't even move when the RPMs are at 1800 RPMs, or if they do move, you'll just crawl along the bottom, so they're not going to be cleaning the pool. So the thinking that you can have it at a low RPM all the time really is not something you can do unless you have certain things set up, and you can do this in some cases where you have a robotic pool cleaner and maybe a solar power surface cleaner, and then you could probably set it at a low RPM and let those work. But I really think that the pool does need a medium to high speed program just to get the water moving like a single speed pump would do. For me, that's optimal because then the pool will have a really clean look to it, and you're really circulating the water an amount of time that's necessary for it to circulate. With a single speed pump, we know that the RPMs, revolutions per minute, is 3450 at the maximum speed, which is one speed. That's why they're a single speed pump. But with a variable speed pump, you're running it at different speeds, 1800 RPMs, 2100 RPMs. Some of these systems have percentages, so you're running it at 30%. 30% of the 100% is translated into RPMs in some other pumps. And so it can be a little confusing if they use percentages. And I'm kind of old school. I like RPMs better. And you can kind of get an idea of the percentages in RPM translation sometimes. But a lot of them will also be low, medium, and high. And so I would think a lot of the low speed is around 1800 RPMs. A lot of the medium speeds are around 2400 or 2600 RPMs. And of course, high speed would be pretty much the full 3450 RPMs or close to that, 3200 RPM, something like that. So one thing you have to note about VS pumps, and this is really important to note, is that compared to a single speed pump, there's some rule of thumbs that we put out in the industry, like, if you have a 10,000 gallon pool, run it for 6 hours, or you have a 15,000 gallon pool, run it for 8 hours. There's some rules that you can kind of get an idea based on a single speed pump. With a VS pump, there's really no set rules because you're running it at different speeds, which means that the water is circulating at a lower rate at the lower speeds and at a higher rate at a medium speed. And therefore, you really need to know the gallons per minute. Now, some of the newer Pentair pumps have a built-in flow meter. I don't think they're super accurate, but they're better than nothing. And knowing the flow of the pump will give you kind of your set parameters. I don't want to give you a lot of math here, but I'll give you a few examples so that you get an idea of what I mean by the lower speeds, the gallons per minute, and the circulation. So what's a good way to get the flow? Well, installing a flow meter is really key, I think, if you really want it to be accurate. But you can kind of guesstimate run times with a VS pump without a flow meter. It's not something that I would say is essential. It does help, but you can get some ideas just based on using math with the pool. But the flow meter does really help, of course, because you'll know exactly how many gallons per minute of water is moving through the pool. FlowViz is the one that I recommend because you can retrofit. If you have a Jandy check valve, which are the most common check valves in my area, you can just put a FlowViz flow meter in there and it'll give you the flow of the pool. And you can kind of guesstimate what the low speed gallons per minute is. So I'm just going to give you some examples here of setting a runtime for a 15,000 gallon pool in the summertime using a low speed at 1800 RPMs and a medium speed of 2400 RPMs. And if you're using percentages, I think one of them would be 30%, the other would be, I think, 60 or 70%. But RPMs are, again, what I'm used to in the industry. So let's say the low speed in a 15,000 gallon pool will give you 30 gallons per minute. So that means that, and I want 2 cycles of water, by the way. So I want the water to go through the pump and filter twice, basically. So I want to circulate about 30,000 gallons of water. And so that's about 1,000 minutes at low speed or 16 hours. And then medium speed at 50 gallons per minute, that's about 600 minutes or 10 hours to filter 30,000. So if I wanted to set the pump to run at low speed for 70% of that time, I would, of course, do a little bit of math. It would be basically about 11 hours. And you can calculate this. If you wanted to calculate this, you would take the 16.67 hours and times it by 0.70, which is 70%. And that'll give you 11 hours and a little over 11 and a half hours, basically. So again, you would take the number that you get times by the percentage you want to run it, and that'll give you the hours. Same thing with the medium speed. You would take the 16.67 hours times 0.30, which is 30%, which would give you 5 hours. So I'm running a low speed about 12 hours a day, and I'm running the medium speed at 5 hours a day. So that's 17 hours of total runtime, and that gives me 2 cycles of water through the pool, which is about 30,000 gallons. Now, if it was a single speed pump at 3450 RPMs, it's kind of a good guesstimate that you're going to get about 70 gallons per minute with a single speed pump. You have some head resistance, you have the filter, and different things that contribute to slowing that down. You're not going to get like the full 100 gallons per minute that you may see in the literature of the pump, because there is some resistance built into the pool equipment area. So if you wanted to get 2 full cycles of a 15,000 gallon pool with a single speed pump, of course, you would do some more math here. That would be 30,000 gallons divided by 70 gallons per minute, which would be 428 minutes. You can do kind of this calculation as well if you wanted to do it this way with the variable speed pump as well. And I'll give you that in a second. But basically, if you're doing the 30,000 gallons divided by 70 gallons per minute, 428.57 minutes, you divide that by 60 minutes, that'll be a little over 7 hours and little over 7 hours of runtime. So again, with the variable speed pump running at a low and medium speed, you're getting 17 hours. And with a single speed pump, that would be 7 hours. And then again, you can do the same kind of math. So 30 gallons per minute on low speed. So 30,000 gallons divided by 30 gallons per minute equals 1,000 minutes. And then that's 16.67 hours. I mean, you take 1,000 minutes divided by 60, that gives you 16.67 hours. 16,000 hours is quite a long time. And then the medium speed, the same thing, 50 gallons per minute. So you take 30,000 gallons of water, because I'm getting 2 cycles of water through this 15,000 gallon pool. That equals 600 minutes. 600 minutes divided by 60 is 10 hours. If you wanted to run the pool just at medium speed by itself, it would be a 10-hour runtime. But then, of course, you're going to have to split it a little bit if you wanted the 70% on low speed and the 30% on medium speed. Again, it doesn't have to be exact, but as you get experience doing this on your pool route, you'll be able to program these things pretty easily with some kind of ballpark and some kind of rules of thumbs. I usually, when I see a 15,000 gallon pool, I know right away that I'm going to run the low speed for at least 10 or 12 hours, and I'm going to run the medium speed for 4 to 5 hours. That's just kind of a given. I already have these numbers in my head. And if they wanted to have their spillway on at a certain time, like maybe 5 to 7 p.m., they want to have more of an effect, I would, of course, put a medium to high speed, maybe 3150 RPMs, and have the spillway running for a couple hours. And then you can cut back on the medium speed to 3 hours. So you kind of see how I do the math there. So you take, again, that amount of runtime that you want to do, which again, if you have a low speed pump, you would want to get the almost 17 hours by itself, and for the medium speed about 10 hours, and kind of do the math with the percentages, and that'll give you the runtimes. But a good rule of thumb is that if you have a 20,000 gallon pool, you would want to have a higher medium runtime and a shorter low runtime, because you would want to get all that water through within a 24-hour period. So you couldn't technically do similar programming with a larger pool. So if I had a 20,000 gallon pool, I would probably put the low speed runtime at about 8 to 10 hours, and then I would have the medium speed running for about the same 8 to 10 hours. So I would kind of give the medium speed more time. Even 12 hours would be good. Low speed is good in the morning, I think, in most cases, and then sometime in the afternoon it kicks into the medium speed and runs through the evening. Again, you're saving a lot of electricity by doing these 2 speeds, and a medium speed of 2600 RPMs will get most suction side cleaners working. A lot of them will work at 2400 RPMs. There's a rare case where you have to have it at maybe 2800 RPMs to get the suction side cleaner working in the pool. Now, if you have a pressure side cleaner, you definitely would want to have the medium speed running when you have the pressure cleaner on. It just allows for more water going to the booster pump. And so if you are running a pressure side cleaner, you would want the medium speed to come on when the pressure cleaner comes on at 2400 RPMs would be my minimum, I think, in most cases for a pressure side cleaner. So you kind of want to set the longer medium speed, and you can even put a high speed on when you have a large pool. So if you have a 25,000 or 30,000 gallon pool, high speed is something you're going to have to utilize in a lot of cases. And so you may just want to have 2 settings, maybe a medium speed of 2400 RPMs for 8 hours, and then a medium to high speed of 3150 or 3200 RPMs for the remainder of the day. And you want to run that pool probably 23 or 24 hours a day. Now, the pump can run 24 hours a day and have really no problem. The pool pumps are actually made to run continuously. They're very similar to the motors you would find on a swamp cooler on top of a business or a restaurant that's running 24 hours a day, basically. So they're designed for continuous run or continuous use. So don't be scared if your pool pump is running 22 or 23 hours a day. They're designed to run that long. That's kind of how they're manufactured. And it's not really going to be a problem. You're going to have that kind of runtime in the summertime anyway. So just realize that in the summer months, here it's usually May through the end of September. Your VS pump is going to be running for a longer time than it would be in the wintertime. You cut that back pretty dramatically in the wintertime here because the water temperature drops down into the 50s in a lot of cases. But regardless, the VS pump is going to run longer with a larger pool, and you want to program in more high to medium speeds in a larger body of water. Now, if you have a 10,000 gallon pool, then of course you can have the low speed running for 10 hours a day, and you can easily have a 3-hour medium speed, and it'll circulate the pool no problem. A good rule is the longer you run the VS pump, the better. The larger the pool, the higher the RPM or percentage, and the smaller the pool, you can have a longer low speed and get away with a shorter medium speed to get that water circulating at least twice through. Sometimes you want 3 times through, and it's all dependent on a lot of factors like how often is the pool used? Is it a heavy used pool? Is there a large debris load? These are all factors that you have to factor in when you're setting the runtime. And one takeaway I think you can get here is that I just like using 2 speeds. I don't like programming in multiple speeds. I don't like having 5 different speeds running in a day or different speeds running different days. It's just so easy to calculate and to keep things really simple by just having 2 speeds. A low speed of 1800 RPMs, which is enough to get the saltwater generator to work, by the way, in most pools and most systems. And then you have your medium speed, anywhere from 2400 to 2800 RPMs. And this is going to be this will help you maximize your savings and allow the pool to have a pretty nice look to it. Almost the same look that you would have with a single speed pump running in that pool. So I would recommend, again, doing some math calculations. If you don't have a flow meter, you can get some basic ideas of what the pool is flowing. I would say 1800 RPMs for most pools is about 30 gallons per minute. And then, of course, the medium speed is anywhere from 50 to 60 gallons per minute. And then the high speed is anywhere from 70 to 80 gallons per minute. There are some pools where I put a flow meter in, when they have a 3 horsepower Pentair IntelliFlow pump, and they have a 520 square foot clean and clear filter with enough straight pipe and the way things are going that I have gotten like 100 gallons per minute out of this thing, which is pretty interesting. But I would say in reality, most pools kind of top out at 70 to 80 gallons per minute just because of the water going through the system. It's going to slow it down, and you can kind of gauge that and use that as kind of your rules of thumb when you're setting the VS pump without a flow meter. Bottom line, the longer you can run the VS pump, the better. And if you're in doubt or don't really know exactly how long to run it, just run it as long as the customer can tolerate. Low speed for 14 hours, medium speed for 7 hours. And, if that's a 15,000 gallon pool, you're pretty good there. And again, calculate this and change it for the larger pools. If you have a commercial pool and it has a VS pump, just run it at 3450 RPMs continuously, because that's when you're going to get the best results. If you have a large pool that's heavily used, running it at just a high speed of 3200 RPMs all day long is also something you may have to do. You really can't save energy when the pool is being heavily used, or if it's a commercial pool. You are more focused on water quality than energy savings, so keep that in mind as well. But for a normal residential pool that's used once in a while, that's not gigantic, you can have a lot more leeway in how to set that variable speed pump to save the customer on an electricity bill. In reality, they're not going to save 80% or 90% on your energy use. If you set it up the way I have described here, you're going to save at least 60% in most cases, because you do need that medium speed, and sometimes you do need that higher speed as well. If you're looking for other podcasts I have recorded, you can find those on my website, swimmingpoollearning.com. Just click on the podcast icon on the banner, and there'll be a drop-down menu of 1600 podcasts. And if you're interested in the coaching program that I offer, you can learn more at poolguycoaching.com. Thanks for listening to this podcast. Have a great rest of your week, and God bless. This episode is brought to you by HASA, providing products that deliver clean, healthy water for every aspect of everyday life. The bottom feeder battery-powered vacuum system, portable, powerful, and only weighs 12 pounds. And Skimmer. Get Skimmer, America's #1 pool service software. Podcast listeners can try Skimmer for free at getskimmer.com/poolguy.